Okay, so this is literally take two of this video. The first video, I recorded the whole thing. 30 minutes of me just talking and talking and talking. Turns out my mic was muted. Mic was muted. So here we go again. So, in the previous video, and the whole purpose of this is for information, to inform you. I mean, that's what being informative is about. But there's some things like I've experienced in the absence of my video and content creation, as far as anything for this channel or my other channel. And light code language is something I know some of you coming across this video or seeing this video in general. I know some of you are familiar with the light code language, and for those of you who are not, it will sound like speaking in tongues. It kind of sounds like that, but it's not that. It might sound like it, but it's not. For any of you with like Christian background watching this, that's what speaking in the light code language would sound like, but it's not that. So I did a light code language healing session myself a little over 2 weeks ago. And let me put this on vibrate. Yeah, almost 2 weeks ago. And I realized a lot. And am realizing even more as time goes on due to the additional clarity I stepped into from being, excuse me, essentially just being healed from the tethers that were attached to me. Because turns out, I'm going to put it into a categories like this. We got 3 witches, Reiki, trauma, and I think that's it. Are those the main points of it all? Yeah, the 3 witches, lifetimes. Yeah. That's the 3 witches. Because for the most part, I'm not gonna have like no set structure with this. I'm just gonna talk, and that's why the last video was like 30 minutes. I was just talking because I had to explain the details of it all. And even then, that didn't do it justice because it's so much stuff. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are the 3 witches, because apparently, okay, here we go. So one thing I want to talk about first before I get into it is the fact that we are not fully taking advantage of the simple fact that we are multi-dimensional beings. Multi-dimensional beings mean that this here, which I'll talk about this in other videos, this here right now, this version of me is my focal point. This is the version of me that most people will see and experience because it's the focal point. Meanwhile, there are infinite possibilities, infinite lifetimes, infinite timelines, all converging from me, but also to me. And to you and from you. You are the focal point. You are literally the center of the universe, and no one can tell you otherwise. That's just how existence works. Because the universe is experiencing itself through each individual of us, each individual that is here watching this video and anybody you interact with. The universe is experiencing itself through all of us, and we are experiencing the universe through ourselves. That's the duality of it. Universe everywhere around us. Universe also everywhere within us, as above, so below. So, there were 3 lifetimes in particular that stood out in this light code healing session. And in these 3 lifetimes that had, that was the other thing, I'll get to it, that had ties to Egypt. 3 lifetimes that had ties to Egypt. And in these same 3 lifetimes, there were 3 witches, 3 women, that tethered themselves to me and were siphoning energy from me. Now, put a pin in that and talk about this. She does great work. Social media is here. Natalie. She's gone through the processes and initiations required for her to be able to do this work. Not only am I going to be plugging her, but I'm also going to be plugging my stuff, because the kind of work that we do is needed. My specialty is with the balancing of the mind, the body, and the spirit using physical fitness and having you get an understanding of this focal point. The focal point that is here, the higher, lower, and eternal self, which will help you branch out to the infinite possibilities that is you. But what she specializes in is like the healing aspects of it in the way that I'm not quite adept to myself. I'm only aware of it. So all of my processes are from the physical work, the mental work, and you going through the spiritual work. Because even with the Reiki, I'm not gonna talk about the Reiki yet. I'm gonna save the Reiki for later. Keep talking about these the three lifetimes and these witches. So yeah, 3 witches, 3 different lifetimes, but all still having some Egypt connection, some kind of Egyptian connection, some, let me correct myself, Kemetic connection. And I found that interesting because as I was meditating on it, and I have been meditating on it, I realized that these witches have been using pretty much every woman I've encountered. Not all of them, thankfully, not every woman I came across were being influenced or essentially used by these 3 witches. And what's also interesting about these 3 witches is that I've met them in this lifetime. I'm just not sure who they are quite yet. And then additionally to that, I did conclude that my ex, like I talked about that relationship in a previous video, she was also being used by them, which brings up the fact that I feel like I need to have a conversation with her. Like, who are these witches? Like, would she know? Like, so many things come to mind. So many things came to mind in the beginning once I was digesting all of this information. And now that some of the information is digested and I have conclusions and results or like solid facts on who is who and how they are being used, I'm still it literally feels like I'm being like a spiritual Batman or something, like a spiritual detective, because I'm trying to figure out who they are, these 3 witches, but I'm having to do so just like meditating and going through the memories and the experiences of all the women I have experienced something with, because majority of them, keyword majority of the women I have any kind of experience with were just pawns in this game of siphoning the abundant energy that I have. Because like at the end of this session, I don't feel like I know for a fact I have never felt all of my energy be mine, and that says a lot. Like, even when trying to think back to how things were before my leap of faith on my spiritual journey, I don't recall a time in this experience so far, before recently, where I felt like all of my energy was mine, which means that they have been siphoning energy from me for a long time, a very, very long time. And yeah, trying to figure out who they are. This stuff is really important because there's no telling, because part of me feels like they have their hand on other men as well, because of just their nature that I've been picking up on. It's not anything good either. They just want to wreak havoc and cause chaos. But at the same time, they want you or me in this instance to still be alive, so they can continue to siphon energy. And I'm so glad I decided to do this session, because like I would not have known this, because regardless of how much healing and work I would do myself, I realized like, man, it still feels like something is off. Like, yes, I'm feeling the effects of me doing my healing work and my Reiki, but something still feels off. And that's what it was. The fact that I was completely unaware of the fact that I was just being used. And what's frustrating about it is the fact, like, most people that know me are aware that I'm a very giving person. I'm okay with the giving out of love, or just giving just to give, without expecting anything in return. But to have my energy siphoned against my knowledge and to have it not benefit me in any shape or form, I need to know who they are. That is like, bro, that's literally stealing from me and capitalizing on what you stole from me to better yourself. And I'm just none the wiser to it because like, I quite literally never considered, like, dang, different lifetimes. Like, everything I was really focused on in terms of my healing was just for this focal point. I never considered what was going on in other lifetimes that could affect me here, but the possibility is there. And with working with Natalie, that is something that you can get help with. Now, I okay, I did say I was gonna talk about the Reiki later. So the next thing before I get to the Reiki is you know what? Let me switch that around. Well, I'll talk about the Reiki now. Because what I came to learn that made sense, because it's like, as it was explained to me one time from someone else that also did work with her, is that, wow, apparently this lineage of Reiki that I've been working with, the symbols and all, are actually more of a detriment than a service. Because the thing is, when it comes to Reiki in its nature, it's still good. Reiki in its nature is still good. Like, I know what I just said, but what made the Reiki practices that I learned a disservice was the fact that I was using other people's symbols and other people's lineage to heal myself. And by definition of me doing that, I was getting my energy siphoned additionally from that. Because it's like this. How can I don't remember it word for word, so let me try to remember how it's explained to me. So since we are using, as Reiki masters, since we are using other people's symbols and lineage, every time we use their practices, which is like their symbols and things tied to their lineage, a piece of us is taken and given to them. Okay, so we're almost running out of space. I had to switch data storage locations. But yes, where was I? All of my energy, or pieces of ourselves, will be siphoned away to their lineage. And that's not good. Like, if any part of you has to be taken away in terms of like, oh, I use this thing. And I know some people might think like, well, isn't that just how it works? You give and take. But no, it doesn't. Like, that ideology that it's okay to do a give and take is not exactly how things are supposed to be viewed. Because as Reiki is in its nature, we can all utilize Reiki in our own ways because of what the nature of it is. This is just energy that's just always around us all the time. If we want to use it how we want to use it with our own symbols that can only come from our own creation, then yes, do that. Because that's something that I decided to do once I learned this information. I was like, all right, cool. Then that's simple. I'm just going to create my own symbols and remove those symbols that I used from myself. I wasn't sure if that was done before, but I'm going to make sure I do it just to be as clear as possible. Because now that all of my energy is mine and I have not used any of those Reiki symbols since the light code session, it's like, okay, cool. Let me make some new symbols to override the symbols that I already used, to get rid of those, and encourage anyone I teach to make your own symbols. Because like, even in terms of like, man, it just makes so much sense to just make your own symbols. Exercise that creativity that you will gain, or the creativity that you already have. Just make your own sigils, your own glyphs, your own anything. You can do that because you have that power. You are that operator. You co-create with the universe. And it's like the fact that you have to use other people's vehicles, or the fact that you just have to use other people's stuff to gain things that's not the only way. I'll put it that way. It doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just that even with the siphoning of the energy with the Reiki, it's not bad in a sense. It's more so like, why though? Why though? Now, the things with the three witches, that was bad because they were trying to cause havoc. And I'm not sure who else they're trying to cause havoc with, but that was bad for me. Now, I can see how I became a better person from the experiences that led to this point. However, no. I honestly would have still came to be the person, this being that I am in this moment, whether those witches were siphoning my energy or not. Nonetheless, yeah, making new symbols to use and encouraging the people I teach. So any of my new students, any of my current students, I'm going to teach you like, yo, make your own. Like you will fully benefit from using your own things because it came from you. Like even though when it comes to like thoughts and ideas and all that stuff, it comes from the universe or one of the other versions of you. It comes from somewhere outside of you. So it comes to you and out. That's how ideas work. That's just how energy is. So make your own symbols. And honestly, if you need assistance with making your own symbols, I'll help you in that process because I mean, as a graphic designer and a creative, just in general, one of the things that I got good at, well, one of the things I just realized that I'm like naturally good at, I can help you with that, you know, because it does so much power for you to create your own. Like think about it this way: a lot of people create their own lives in the first place. Like a lot of you who are watching this video, you created your own life, the experiences that you have. You created all of that stuff with your thoughts. So imagine doing it not just on a physical level, but on a spiritual, energetic level where you create this thing to help you do something else. And now it's going to even amplify it even more because now you gave it meaning. You gave it a directive. And now every time you use it, it will activate. That's essentially what Reiki is. You use these symbols to activate these meanings, these energies. And now, instead of using the Reiki symbols, you're making your own symbols that mean whatever you want them to mean. That's the beauty of me realizing this and now sharing it with you because now I'm going to create my own. And with that, they're going to be even more powerful than the other ones because it came from me. It came from my source, not someone else's source. It's amazing. But now the other thing. So just a quick recap. We talked about the witches. We talked about Reiki. Now the thing I was going to talk about before Reiki is the connection I have with the sun and the god Ra. Apparently, it seems as though I'm gonna recap this dream I told you guys a while ago. So I had this dream where I was like walking and what was I doing? I had my earbuds in. Like I mentioned in the previous video, it's the same earbuds I had when I got my first iPhone 7. And that was back when Apple actually cared about us and they would give us earbuds or earphones with our new phone. But they don't do that no more. They don't do that no more at all. Not only, sidebar, not only did they push people to get the Apple Pods, they created things to connect to your Apple Pods. They quite literally sold you back the wiring to your earbuds. I digress. Wow. But yeah. So earbuds in my head. Listen to some music. That was the song I was listening to. I'm gonna put a thumbnail or a picture of the song that just came to mind. That was a song I was listening to in a dream. Like for a while I was trying to remember what that song was, but it just came to me in this moment. It's Voiceless Fear by the Gazette. That was the song playing. What is the significance of this song? Side note again, one of the things I've been doing, because like I listen to a lot of Japanese music, and not because of anime. Like, surprisingly, most of the anime that most of the songs that are Japanese that I listen to, I learned later are openings to an anime. Like for example, Death Parade has a song by Bradio. I forget the name of the song, but I listen to the band Bradio, and Bradio has songs that are openings to certain anime. And then there's Rookies is Punk. Now, Rookies is Punk um, was introduced by Bleach, but there are other songs that they have that I've come across that I later learned would also an opening or ending to an anime. And it's like majority of the bands I listen to, I came across on my own, but then there's that small handful that I came across with anime. So, tangent aside, that was the song I was listening to in the dream. And I was listening to it, like I mentioned before, and I was walking down the street. Wherever I was, it looked familiar as I'm thinking back to the energy I saw. It looked familiar, but it felt like I was where the heck was I? I'm gonna have to look at the. I'm gonna do that at another time. Pay attention to the scenery that was around me. So I remember how everything looked. I don't know where I was. Well, I can say it did feel like I was still here in St. Louis at least. But I don't remember where. Or perhaps it wasn't even St. Louis. Either way, it felt like a familiar place that I was before. Anyway, walking down the street, listening to that song. And I had my iPhone. So I was like, I had my phone. I remember seeing the phone connected to the earbuds and them connected to me. And I had my phone. And okay, so all right. So I heard the sun. Well, I heard, not only do I hear the sun, but I can tell that the sun, like, so the sun was shining, and then it like directed its light onto me in like a spotlight, tunnel vision kind of format, and I'm hearing this ringing in my ear on like just in general, and I look at the sun like, what the heck? I lift my phone up and I'm turning it up. I'm pushing the button to turn the music up, and I keep walking, and then the ringing gets louder, and then it gets so loud to the point to where it hurts. So I'm like, I take the earphones out, I turn around, look at the sun, and then I wake up. So then, I tell Natalie this, and that opens up more. So it seems like in this session, the more I'm sharing with her, the more she's able to tell me about, well, not everything, because I'm not surprised. There were more questions I wanted to ask, but I felt like even if I did ask, they probably wouldn't tell her. And by they, I mean all the spiritual team that I have. Like, I feel like they were the ones communicating with her to communicate with me, so she had a clear connection with the light code language. And let me see. Yeah, they didn't tell her, mainly due to the fact that I have to do that additional work. Like, I cannot have just everything handed to me. Neither can you. Like, we cannot have the things we want just handed to us. Even though it makes the most logical sense. Like, we're already going to do the things that we set out to do, but give me that $1 million. But on the other side of that same coin, if you're going to do the things you need to do, regardless if you have the $1 million or not, then just do the things you need to do, and then $1 million will come. So for me, in my case, it's like, yeah, just already do the things. Like, you're gonna do it anyway, so just do it. So this money can come your way, or whatever you need can come your way in general. Because one thing that cannot be skipped in the process on your spiritual journey is the work. You have to do the work, no matter how uncomfortable it is. You have to do the work. And I notice a lot of people want to skip to the end result, and that's not okay. I don't care how easy it is to just have the money to do it. Do not do it, yo. Don't. You're not gaining anything from it. You're going to pay this money. And then it's like some of the things that people are paying for, it's like, bro, you could have went to the gym. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not judging people, but it's just like, I know I know it's even weird. It's like, how you gonna say you're not judging people and look at you right now? It's like, I know. I know, but it's like, why though? Like, come on now. You would have gained so much more if you put in the work to do the thing instead of just having it paid for and getting it taken care of. I mean, we all have our own choices, but that's something that's always going to cross my mind. especially when it comes to the NBL. Now the NBL is when it seems like men are doing a surgery to make themselves taller. And as an athlete and martial artist myself, nah, that one, nah. The liposuction thing that people are doing, that's cool. I can let that slide because it's like, that's cool. But breaking your legs and have them reform so you can be taller with like additional surgery shit, no, 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 man. Be happy in your, be happy with your height. Like that's one thing that can't be changed. Like I say what I say about the whole thing with like liposuction because like you can literally go to the gym and work that stuff off. But if you don't, cool. But NBLs, making yourself taller, I don't know about that one, man. That's going too far a little bit. That one going a little bit too far. But anyway, I'm saying all that to say, you have to do the work. Now, with the stuff I mentioned, that is an option. As much as I don't agree with it, that is an option. But for the spiritual stuff, ain't no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. You have to do that work, yo. That shadow work, that inner work. You have to take that leap of faith, as I call it, and get to work. Like, and then it's like, depending on what it is, you might not even know. That's why I'm even mentioning this light code stuff, because there were things that I was not aware of, and things that I was already aware of, and apparently I really needed to be reminded. Because to get back on topic, after telling her about that dream with the sun, and then realizing that that same frequency I was hearing in that dream, I can tap into it whenever I want to. Because like, I then later realized that it's not a ringing in my ears, it's more so like a sensation or feeling in that space that's like where the brain meets the spine. That's where I feel the vibration at, or whatever this frequency is. And if I recall correctly, I think that's the pituitary gland. And apparently, I have some kind of connection to the sun, which makes so much sense because it's like there are so many things that I did before my leap of faith and during the beginning phases of the leap of faith that was helping me realize this without even knowing that that's what it was. Cause I did sun salutation just about every day for a while. Then I allowed myself to get distracted with life happening and whatnot. Not that anything bad, it's just life being life and life going on and all that just stuff. And I noticed myself being drawn to gold. And I'm explaining this at all mainly due to the fact that in addition to this connection to the sun, there was also a connection to the god Ra. And it seems as though these comedic lifetimes that I became aware of have something to do with this sun connection and this connection to the god Ra. And in addition to that, there are 3 traumas that are associated with me. Like, there's some trauma in the throat chakra, some trauma in the right eye, and some trauma in my third eye. Funny thing about the trauma in my right eye, the right eye is the eye of Ra. So, like, yo, I kid you not, as I was like coming to conclude all this information, I was like, yo, what the heck is going on? What is this? What am I supposed to get from all this stuff? Because another thing that was standing out was the fact that she was able to pick up that I was some kind of warrior. And like, it seems as though in majority, or if not all of my lifetimes, I have been some kind of warrior. And people that know me can kind of see that with the martial arts and the working out. And like, just me looking the way that I do, it gives warrior energy. And apparently, I may have been some kind of sun warrior. Cause it's like that, at least that's what makes the most sense, you know? The connection to God, or Ra, the god of the sun, and the connection to the sun, and then that dream about the sun shining on me, and then just now, I just decided to click in, and it's like, okay, so let me explain that. So like, when I decide to tap into that frequency of the sun, that's what I'm gonna call it, I realize I don't feel it or hear it. So I'm like, oh, do I want to tap into it? Nah, I'll tap into it now. And I just did in that moment once I was like beginning to talk about it. But then it's like I notice when I'm not connected to it because I'll be talking and doing something like okay I don't feel it, and then I just keep going on with whatever I'm doing unless I decide to just tap into it. And that's like the best that I can explain it. And in the beginning, yeah, it was just me hearing it, but once I began to try to feel for it, because I'm like, it has to be like, what if I like try to feel for it? Once I began to feel for it, that's when I began to feel it, like right here at the part where the spine and the brain connect, which I'm again assuming is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, admittedly, is something I haven't looked much into. I always focus on the pineal gland, but I've been just learning more about the body. It's like, okay, yeah, let me look more into pituitary gland because I think that's the one lower because you got the pineal gland, which is the one like right in the middle of the brain. I think the pituitary gland is the one that's like lower. It's like beneath the pineal gland because you got the pituitary, then you got the pineal gland, and I think the pineal gland is the one that's connected to the spine, closer to the spine, if anything. But quick recap: we talked about the three witches, talked about Reiki, talked about the connection to the sun. I think that's it for the most part. And all in all, yeah, this video is seemingly as long as the first one, because it's so wild that, man, I recorded that whole video thinking like, okay, cool, let me go edit it. I put it into Premiere Pro. I'm like, wait a minute, there's no audio. What's going on? And apparently my mic was on mute. Let me think. I think that's everything. Yeah. Yeah, that's everything. So just a quick recap one more time. We talked about the three witches, talked about Reiki, talked about the god, the god in the back. Talked about the connection to the sun and the god Ra. And we talked about, oh no, yeah, that's it. Why do I feel like there's something else missing? Well, I'm not going to post the video today. I'm going to post it, well, I might post it today, considering what time it is. I might post it later in the evening, because I have to edit it and whatnot. But yeah, those are the main things. I'm going to leave it at that, regardless of what comes to mind or not. And if something else comes to mind, I'll make it as a short, if possible. But yeah, this stuff is important, people. Like, this is my testimonial on it, and I know I'm going to do I will do another testimony live with Natalie at some point. Because this stuff is important. Like, I needed this. Because, man, just thinking about the fact that quite literally the sun or God or Ra have been trying to get me back on track. And I've just been, like the 2 years after that relationship. Bro, like, oh my God. Like, so much distraction, so much sadness, lack of dopamine, and that's something else that I realized not too long ago, that that depression that I was experiencing led to a depression-based ADHD, which I didn't even know was a thing. Bro, all these freaking spam calls. Because you can quite see it's that spam likely. It's like, I'm not gonna answer that. But yeah, this stuff is important. So Natalie's information will be down in the description below. You can reach out to her to get a session with her. And then as well, my information is down there too. If you need a personal trainer or spiritual mentor, if you want someone to teach you Reiki. And in addition to that, create your own symbols, because it will be so much more powerful because you created it. Oh man, I am so glad I decided to do it. And you will thank yourself for taking that step. You won't thank me. Well, you might thank me and you might thank Natalie, but you will also thank yourself because you'll have a moment. You will have a moment to where you're like, damn, I'm so glad I did that. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have that additional clarity, because it's going to do a lot for you. It's going to do so much. And then it's like, now that you have that additional information, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to just sit on it and just allow everything to continue to be as it is? Or are you going to create the life that you truly want? I'll see you guys next time. Peace, love, and prosperity to all of you, and thank you again if you made it to this point in the video, because this is going to be a long one. There's a lot to talk about and recap because of the first video. But yeah, I'll see you next time.